Okay, so cross-platform content distribution is where we take a creative concept and we'll produce a piece of anchor content, typically for Facebook, and then we will take the same creative, take the same idea and turn it into bits of content which are more relevant for specific platforms. So we'll create a piece of content for Instagram or for Snapchat or for LinkedIn, but they are all tied into the same creative idea. They feed off that.
And I think the biggest thing with brands we're talking about, obviously, you've got different tones in the way you put on different platforms, but I think more around the strategy of the story you're trying to tell, you need to have an overarching view on either the campaign or the launch or whatever the story is to all feed into the same thing, because I think what we're seeing a lot of is a lot of like fragmented alignment with the way that stuff's going on different platforms. It's kind of like this bit of a scattergun approach with like, oh, we're going to do this, and it's, I think, because digital is so wide and vast, the messaging sometimes for what brands are trying to get across also does that same thing. So I think probably on top of the whole thing with cross-platform and putting content everywhere is really understanding that it needs to fit back to the execution on the 3 E's. It needs to go back to the why they're there to do it. So those tones, the messaging will change on the platforms, but we just really need to make sure that the overarching goal of the content is consistent throughout. So
and for me as well, from a distribution perspective, there's a piece around remarketing. So you use your anchor content on Facebook to drive the traffic, and then once you've seen through the custom audiences features within Facebook, you can then see who's engaging with that piece of content, and you can then remarket to them through other channels such as YouTube and Instagram. So it's all about how many times do we need to get that message across to the customer. Well, we know effective frequency talks about 6 to 9 times getting a message across. So you start off with your anchor content, and then you have your micro content that goes across other channels and remarketing.
But even that point alone, which I don't think many people actually understand with content, it's not like, so what we're saying is like, hey, don't just check it up on YouTube and they'll see it. It's like, no, if they've engaged with this somewhere else, the data of the distribution side can now track those people on different platforms to then be able to speak different tones and messages to it. So I think a big key thing to understand with your distribution of the content, exactly Andrew's point, is understanding that can feed back, but also by utilising data, it's going to get you with them to follow them around the ecosystem.
Yeah, it's about advertising to warm audiences. It's about identifying who those people are who have an interest in your content and therefore your product, and therefore showing your message to them over and over again via other platforms.
Pound them with value.
Yeah.
All right, more content coming soon.